How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Prozzy here with Allan from Life in Taiwan. I know you guys are probably curious about his eye. If you want to know what happened, you're going to have to go check out his channel, which will be on one of the corners. I can never remember which one. Anyways, we're here at one of my favorite places in Taiwan called Re Chao, which is like, I don't know, a
stir-fry restaurant.
Yeah, where they serve quick, hot, cheap food and delicious ice-cold beers. And the food is what I wanted to talk about today. The differences between eating etiquette, sort of the table manners, and also the differences between the type of food that you eat here in Taiwan and Western food that we eat back home. And as many of you know, I worked in a kitchen in Canada for about 4 years, and that is where I forged a close bond with cooks and cooking, and I love to cook, and I'm interested in the ingredients that they use and how they cook and all that kind of thing, and that's what I want to discuss in today's video.
You do cook a lot at home?
I do. I love to cook.
And I don't wash the dishes, apparently.
What?
Hence the black eye.
Yeah, I set them straight for you, don't worry. And just look at this amazing array of dishes we got here. This looks fantastic. I'm always excited to eat this stuff.
Well, I think the first thing we said we should talk about is the kind of equipment and the layout of the dinner is completely different.
Sure.
Cheers, by the way.
Cheers.
Of course, there's the obvious things like chopsticks compared to cutlery. The Lazy Susan. Do you call this a Lazy Susan in Canada?
Yep, Lazy Susan. So that, you know, because one of the big differences between Taiwan and the West is that oftentimes, it's especially true with family dinners or places like this, they'll have a bunch of different dishes set out in front of you. For example, we have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 dishes.
Yep. The Lazy Susan facilitates the distribution of those said dishes.
Yes, because in the West it'd be a lot different. Family dinner, sometimes you'd have a lot of different dishes and you just pick and choose from the different dishes, but usually you have your own plate. You just have one plate, so we don't really need a Lazy Susan. I'm also holding my chopsticks wrong. One interesting thing about the chopsticks is that I actually can't hold my chopsticks properly because I've broken my knuckle. I'm missing a knuckle. My finger is like this.
Yeah.
I hold my chopsticks like this, which is incorrect. You're supposed to hold them. You hold them the same way.
Yeah, on the middle finger.
But I think you're supposed to hold it like that.
I'm not.
Aren't you? I also noticed another difference that I found quite funny that me and Allan argued about last week was how to hold your fork properly, which is what we use in the West, obviously.
Allan, hold this fork like you're gonna eat something.
What?
Why'd you hold your fork like a fucking ape?
That is the right way to hold a fork.
That is not how you hold a fork. You
it's
hold
a
it.
fork,
Give it to
not
me.
a spoon. That's a spoon.
Give it to me. Look, watch. Look. You hold it like that, and then you dig in, and then and then you spoon it.
Then spoon it. You just use the same example. The left hand.
See, you don't use a fork. I can't
surprised.
believe you colonized us.
I guarantee you, people in the comments are going to rip you to pieces because that's what a fork is for forking.
What's some of the things you've noticed about the equipment when eating at a Taiwanese restaurant?
Is usually when you come to a rotao like this, they'll actually have like a little mini rubbish bin on the table. The thing that most foreigners and Westerners really like is the fridges or in public, kind of the public area. So you just go and help yourself to the beers, leave them on the table, and they count it up at the end of the day.
Yeah.
At the end of the meal. If that was in England, there would be empty beer bottles sellotaped to the other. It's just an honor system with beer and drinks.
Yeah.
And like when you go to pay the bill at the end, we'll probably talk a bit more about paying at the end, but paying your bill, they just send someone over, count up the different beers you've had and add it to your bill. And it's just completely trusted that you didn't hide some beer bottles somewhere.
Also, I have to say, this is friggin' delicious.
Oh yeah.
This food is so good. Now it's time to talk about etiquette, table manners, which are very different. If you're Taiwanese, you really want to pay attention to this because you can break a lot of rules without even knowing it if you go to visit the West.
Yep.
And it's something I'm doing right now.
Talking with your mouth full.
Talking with your mouth full is considered extremely rude in the West. Once the food goes in your mouth, we don't want to hear it, see it, or even know about it. So you eat with your mouth closed, like Allan's doing right now. You're not allowed to make any noise with your mouth. And talking with your mouth closed, considering these are all things that will get you twatted upside the head by your dad growing up. It's for us, it's kind of disgusting. It's kind of gross. I'm not saying Taiwanese people are disgusting if they do it. I'm just saying if you go to the West, people will definitely be giving you looks when you start talking with your mouth full of rice or whatever.
But I think Taiwanese people would probably say they believe the same thing.
Right.
But when you go for a meal with Taiwanese people, especially if we're drinking, having fun and relaxed, it becomes more of like a less formal situation, so then maybe we'll talk with them out full and they'll use the excuse that we're just friends having a relaxed time. No need to worry too much about etiquette. But it's still something we don't want to see too much.
That's a very good point. Is like Taiwanese people are a lot more relaxed when they eat.
Yeah.
We have a lot more rules. Another one that's really weird in the West is elbows on the table like I'm doing now.
Yeah.
That's a no-go. I researched why this is, because it's weird. It sounds like it doesn't make any sense. If your elbows are on the table, it's an aggressive stance. It's like I'm going to do
really?
something. So when you're supposed to keep your hands here. Your forearms are on the table to create a less of an aggressive
So that's like a
atmosphere.
barrier kind of thing, like a defensive.
Yes, it's
pugilistic.
Right, yeah. And although we don't feel that way these days, like my dad always told me, get your elbows off the table if I ever forgot when I was a child.
Yeah.
And there's no rhyme or reason nowadays. It's more of a historical thing that's just sort of kept up today. They do prayer. They'll say grace before they eat, which is, I don't think, something we do in England. It's not something I do in Canada. Not very many families do.
If your family is very religious.
If I have to say grace right now, what would you say?
Thank you, Lord Jesus, for the food you have presented before us. Thank you for Prozzy's almost million views this month.
Thank you for Prozzy's.
I was going to say thank you for Prozzy's almost million views last month, but trying to make it sort of personal to the situation, but
Yeah.
Thank you for Prozzy's. I did see somebody when I went to the Dojang store today. There was a Taiwanese girl, and she literally prayed in just a very short action, prayed in front of her dumplings.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never seen that happen before.
Yeah.
One thing that's considered rude, I'm actually not entirely sure if this is considered rude in Taiwan, but it's definitely something it's discouraged a lot in the West, is reaching. So something is, you have to stand up and go over other people and reach for the food. You're invading their personal space, and personal space is something that's really important to Western people.
Yeah.
That's considered really rude. You're supposed to ask, can you pass the mashed potatoes? Can you pass the peas?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to reach over the table for something. But I don't know. In Taiwan, they seem pretty comfortable just to stand up and grab a little bit of that, grab a little bit of that. But
and they also, like the Lazy Susan probably has its own etiquette anyway.
Yeah.
There's always the problem of when something is sticking out over the edge. If someone goes for something
and then
it just knocks everyone's wine over as you go around.
One of the things is don't stare at other people's food. I remember my dad would always I was a kid and I would just stare at his food. He'd be like, stop staring at my food, you friggin' weirdo. And I guess it just makes us uncomfortable because it's like, what, do you want this? Is it better than yours? Did you make a poor decision when you chose?
I feel like this video is more a therapy session for you and the way your dad treated you at dinner time.
Oh, he's a strict man. He's in the military. Let's talk about some Taiwanese taboos, some Taiwanese eating etiquette, because a lot of it doesn't make any sense to us foreigners. But after being in Taiwan as long as we have, we're pretty used to it. I learned this back in China. I was talking to someone with my chopsticks. I pointed at them. I was like, what about you? What do you do?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and they were like, you shouldn't point your chopsticks at me like that. And they actually took a bit of offense, and I felt really bad because I had no idea.
It's the same when you put your chopsticks in your rice. No, who would do that?
No.
But what we maybe would do is we would put the spoon down the side, so that we maybe would do this kind of thing, which in Taiwanese culture is just you lay it flat on the plate.
Yeah.
And I think the reason is because it sort of represents the incense sticks, and that's what they use for religious practices and funerals.
This is something that maybe Western people do. We don't know because we haven't been back in the West in a long time. But it's using your cell phone to watch a YouTube video right in the middle of the meal, and it's like, my dad would murder me for that.
I think the first thing that, when I was back in England, it used to be rude if I was having a chat with my friends, if I just read a message. If a message came in and I picked it up and read it, my friends would be like, have you got to be somewhere?
Yeah.
Is that important? Is your wife pregnant or someone? So you wouldn't even read a message.
No, your phone stays in your pocket the whole time.
Now that's kind of become a little bit normal, I think, just reading a message, replying to a message, put your phone down. But I feel like in Taiwan, we hang around with some Taiwanese people, and maybe, I'm not too sure whether it's a language barrier, they get bored and can't tune into what we're talking about, so they just do their own thing, or it's just completely normal to sit and watch a YouTube video at the table. I can't figure out why they think that's okay.
It's so common that while you were saying that, they're not anymore, but while you were saying that, there's a table of 4 men behind us, and every single one of them is watching a video or playing a cell phone game right now. Anyways, that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I hope that we've enlightened you on some of the differences between Taiwan and the West and the food that we eat.
If you've enjoyed the video, hit subscribe. Prozzy's at about 80,000 subscribers now. when he gets to 100,000 subscribers, if we should say if, probably
Okay.
when,
Yeah.
you'll never see a party like it.
Really? Oh.
It's gonna be epic. We're probably gonna get kicked out of our house for whatever goes on that weekend. So if you want to see an insane party take place, maybe we'll invite some subscribers. Who knows?
Yeah, that'd be great. A subscriber party.
A subscriber party for 100,000. So yeah, definitely hit subscribe and get him up to 100,000.
Thank you guys so much for watching. You can follow Allan at Instagram at
Instagram 2007. What?
Life in Taiwan.
Life in Taiwan 2017. Jesus.
You can follow me at Browsy_SR. Check out my Patreon page for extra content. I'll catch you guys on the next one.
Keep your stick on the ice.
Keep your stick on the ice.
Stay positive.
Stay frosty.